together? We don't know. But we do know that God is with us, and we know that he's going to carry us through this year. I'll be presenting later our motion to move forward with our capital campaign, and I'll discuss that then. But first of all, just thank you again for your commitment, for your passion to Advent. Thank you. I think we now move to the financial report.
Okay. Thanks, Charlene. Good morning, everyone. So hopefully you've had a chance, or we will have a chance to look over the financial results as contained in the agenda and the reports that are in your package. And also, I'm kind of assuming that most, if not all of you, got to hear and look through the great detail that we went over in December with the budget presentation. So I'm not actually going to go through that in detail again. I will just say that with respect to the month of December, what we had projected when we presented the budget numbers was actually, we actually did better than that for the month of December. We ended up with more generous donations, which again is always a testament to you all. And we also had fewer expenses than we had projected. So for the full year of 2020, as you can see in the package, our operating revenues exceeded our operating expenses by a little more than $6,000, which is pretty amazing considering the year that it was. The council is suggesting, our intent is to take that $6,000 and establish a newly, or recreated actually, reserve fund, which would be a reserve fund, monies set aside in case we need any emergency funds in the future. And as I understand it, such a reserve fund did used to exist at Advent a while ago. But the reserve funds that were in that were kind of spent down to deal with operating deficits that existed in the 2000s, like up until about 2010. So by 2010, the reserve fund had been depleted, and we did have some surpluses in the years since then, which is great. But those surpluses, the focus at that time was to use those surpluses to do principal repayment on the mortgage. So we are looking to reestablish that reserve fund. In particular, in light of COVID still going on, council thinks it's prudent to have some monies set aside again in case of emergency. And I should circle back, I forgot to mention in regard to the fact that there is a $6,000 surplus. Interestingly, that is almost exactly the amount of the 3 months worth of mortgage principal that we did not pay earlier in the year. That was a council decision in the spring to forego those 3 months of principal payments because of the uncertainty around the pandemic at that time. So that was considered prudent at the time. And as it turns out, that pretty much entirely explains the surplus that we have. Moving to restricted fund balances and away from the operating accounts, I really just want to report that they are all doing very well. No concerns there. In particular, we have quite a bit of fund balance for the capital improvement fund in case we need anything for unexpected expenses like, boilers exploding or air conditioners exploding or anything like that in the church. So we do have some ability to pay for any kind of unexpected expenses like that. With that, I do also want to add my thanks to Ian and to Bill for helping me through this past year. It is much appreciated. And I will also do a shout out. You may recall in December, I mentioned that we no longer have a volunteer auditor to audit the financials. So if anyone does have that skill set and the ability to help us in the auditing function, please let me know. It would be greatly appreciated. Of course, we do need an audit. So if we do not have the ability to do that in-house, we will have to go to an outside auditor for that function. And with that, I will open it to questions.
Thank you, Leslie. I see
No
on the
questions
agenda.
from the floor.
Okay.
No questions from the floor.
All right. I see next on the agenda, the approved 2021 budget, but we've done that, right? Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. So we're ready to move on to committee reports.
Worship and music is first.
Yes, David Offit.
Yeah, you have my written report there, and I'm not going to go over everything that I have on that, except to say that it's been, very, very rewarding, I guess, to witness everybody stepping up this year and making worship so vibrant in view of the trouble we've had. We're actually, we're actually way ahead of a lot of other congregations in our ability to bring the gospel online and through Zoom. One thing I did neglect in there was mentioning first Ian James, who deserves so much thanks from us for doing the PowerPoint for so many years. I think he went through the lectionary at least twice. And so basically he leaves behind a fantastic treasure trove of worship to draw on there. And also too, need to thank Kathy and Laura Williams, who have picked up Ian's task, and they now are doing the PowerPoint and getting those to Jen. And again, I'm just very thankful for everybody that has had a part in worship, whether it's the music end, Jamie, Dave Hope, all these people making that happen, or from and of course from the other end, Jen Miller, Jim T, Travis, everyone who's helped bring that to everybody else. And so I guess that's, I thank God and I thank you.
And David, thank you for your leadership. All right, property, or any questions for David or comments? You notice I skipped questions on my report. Okay, thanks again, David. I've called him a few times this year, so there's lots of conversations. Property? Yay, Jim?
Hi, I'm Jim Teague. Property report. I think we put together too much detail. We've got 2 pages in the report just for property, outdone only by the finance report. So I do not wish to drag everybody through listening to 2 pages of details. It'd be a good idea to take questions. I guess the one thing I want to highlight is an unusual thing we did, and that is some parking lot repair. What a mundane subject. I got the idea that we ought to fill the cracks with silicone caulking instead of junk. So we got our member, Robert Shea, involved, and he thought that was a wonderful project. And we started out buying 50 tubes. We're going to fill the cracks in a parking lot. No, we bought 50 more tubes, and we kept going and kept going and kept going, trying to fill the cracks. And Rob did all of the work by hand. We bought caulking in a standard tube, and he got down on his hands and knees and pumped all the cracks full. Till he got through, it was 250 tubes. Ridiculous. But anyway, that's the care we need to give our parking lot. Without something like that to arrest the continued cracking, we would be spending tens of thousands for a new parking lot. So hopefully that rescues it for the near term. The only other thing I would maybe take a few seconds to talk about is the roof. The status of the roof is we have 3 quotes in now. The 4th quote is due next week. So from that, the property committee and pastor will take a look at all the prices, all the features, and make a decision in February. That's tomorrow, but maybe not tomorrow, sometime during February. So we got to do that by the end of February. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, Jim and Travis, again, thank you for your commitment, and what an inspiring story of the commitment to our church. Preschool report, is Alex here?
Here.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here today. Thank all of you so much for all the support that you've shown the preschool as we jump-started our year in September. Whether it's volunteers coming in, people asking how they can help, or recommending us, it means so much to us. We are lucky enough this year that we have full enrollment. Now, we did reduce our numbers a little to maintain COVID distancing, but right now, on an average week, through our doors, we take care of 40 students between the preschool and the pod classes, which is just absolutely wonderful. We have an amazing staff that has been extremely flexible as we hit them with changes on a regular basis, whether that is our older students as they move to hybrid schooling, or our younger students that maybe need to stay out for 2 weeks to quarantine because a parent's been exposed to COVID, putting together packets to go home for those families. So our staff has just been wonderful and flexible. As I'm getting ready to go into next year, I started touring bright and early at 9 a.m. on New Year's Day. Was when we did our first round of tours. We are looking at about 12 students that are already enrolled. Our enrollment has been open for 7 days. So that is lovely for us. We are hopeful that we are going to have 3 solid classes next year, and we're preparing for a 4th. One of the stories that I love to tell is that Pastor reached out over Christmas because a church member had emailed him about the preschool, and she had been a volunteer when our preschool opened. Her son attended, and we will be enrolling her grandson this fall. So 3 generations of Advent members that have all been a part of our preschool. And it is just such a lovely story to be able to tell. And it is so nice. And when the mother of the student had reached out to me, she had had 3 other families in the preschool that had recommended us to her. So without even having the connection to Advent, she had heard about us from other people. And that is just the greatest testament to what our teachers do here every day, is that parents are out talking about us and the word of mouth. So that is where we stand right now as we go into next year. Fortunately, we are financially comfortable, and we are able to rebuild some of our savings account, which is nice for us in the preschool. And that is where we are. Are there any questions at all? Wonderful. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Alec. Sunday school, mutual ministry.
Hey, it's Janie. Hi.
Okay.
So Sunday school has been very quiet, as you can imagine. We stopped Sunday school in March, and we've basically we sent some packets home at the beginning of this new year with the kids. And Judy has kept in touch with some of the older kids who showed an interest. Other than that, we've done a couple of things with the preschool, which was nice because now we have Alex in the preschool, and we did at the beginning of the year, we had an interactive storyteller that we had preschool kids and some Sunday school kids, and then we joined their movie nights. At Christmas, I want to say thank you to the parents and the children who put together videos and did some drawings and photographs, and then to Jamie, who put together the video that hopefully you all saw on Christmas Eve. So other than that, it's pretty quiet.
Well, thank you. And I know that your outreach is going to be critical as we move forward. So thank you again.
Mhm.
Mutual Ministry, John.
I don't think John is present. You have the report, though, from John in your report. There's not much to say about that, except that Steve Crum has volunteered to join the committee, and he has been approved by church council, so he will be joining the committee. And I'm still working on Sue Carino. I'm just going to call her out so you can all work on her as well, because I'd love to have her back on Mutual Ministry. But that is a committee. Anytime there's an issue that you don't feel comfortable talking about with me or council, you can go to any Mutual Ministry member in confidence. We have handled some difficult matters through the years. It's been a pretty quiet year this past year, which has been really wonderful.
Okay, our Care and Connections team, Nancy.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Just wanted to tell you that I'm not going to go through the report. However, I would like to extend lots of thanks to the Care and Connections team and everything they did last year in a challenging year. In my report, I'd also like to acknowledge all of the members that gave blood and participated in the blood drives last year. You can't imagine how important that was and how you saved lives. I'd like to thank a lot of the members who contributed to all of our outreach events, particularly the veterans. And to conclude, to thank all of the volunteers, the leaders, all the staff, all the members for keeping our faith community together during 2020. And lastly, may I ask you all to consider joining the team. You can make a difference as we move forward with developing the vision for Under This Roof. You're going to hopefully come up with some great ideas to help us develop some more exciting things to develop our future at Advent. So please feel free to join the team. Call me anytime. Thank you again.
And thank you, Nancy. I think this has been a very active group. And what's important is, this Nancy, serves as a communicator with many of our members and brings that type of information to council. So Nancy, thank you for your contributions. Memorial report, Sue.
Okay, well, y'all can read the memorial report. It's pretty short. The only thing to point out is that we are looking for some additional members. Nancy Jameson doesn't have enough to do with CCT, so she did volunteer to help, and I thank her for that. So if I could get at least one more person, that would be great. We do want to review the undesignated funds on a more frequent basis so that we can make sure that that money is not just sitting idle, but it's actually in use for the good of the church and the welfare of all. So, and remind you that there was an envelope in the February mailing, and that can be used at any time if you want to designate a memorial, in anyone's name. Okay, appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you, Sue, for your diligence. And this is an important ministry. Any questions on any of the committee reports? Okay, thank you. Pastor, your report?
My report is so long, to make sure that it's all heard, I'm going to read it now. No. I just want to say it was a real year of transition first caused by the COVID virus, but also with a lot of lay leaders. And I just want to thank all those who have served, all those who served in the transition, and all those who have agreed to serve following some people stepping down from leadership. And I also want to thank you, the members, for your continued generous support of our mission. It's been wonderful seeing you in worship and also then getting the count after the worship and sometimes seeing you in the screen in worship. And I think it's a real tribute to the work of Jim Teague, Travis Crum, Jen Miller, Jamie Wonder, Eric Wonder, Bill Boyer, also our partnership with the Westchester Evangelical Chinese Church. You know, they shared the cost of all the equipment that made this possible. And they also helped us from a technology standpoint, helping to train us. But what we accomplished for, I don't know, $5,000 and a whole bunch of staff time, even some volunteer staff time from Jen, our administrative assistant, other churches paid tens of thousands of dollars to do the same thing, to have live worship that is simultaneously recorded. And I think that sets us apart, and I think it will serve us well going forward. Quite a few people say that they're filled with joy by COVID because now they can participate live in worship. The other thing I want to share with you is some of you know I entered the process for foster to adopt, and I have received county approval and had my first meeting with a 15-year-old turning 16. His name is Jeremiah. If you're interested in learning more, talk to me about that. Many thanks to Judy Reif, who's been a real blessing with her texts and encouragement. Joan Tobin as well, who has adopted, and some other people as well. I'm just really excited, a little bit nervous about the opportunity. I want to tell you that I've seen the hands of God in the process so many times, and I'll tell you about that individually if you want to know, or write it up in a newsletter at some point. But just thank you all for your support, and let's continue to keep each other in our thoughts and in our prayers. Know that I pray for you, and know that I'll need your prayers more than ever if things move forward with Jeremiah. But thank you all.
Okay, this is Charlotte. Before I move to new business, Bill Boyer, I know you had a motion. Does that fit in now? Or I just don't want to miss anything. And then we also have to have the election of a new officer. So where does that fit in, Pastor?
I can do that whenever I have it ready. It should be, I guess, first election of new officers. I'm ready. And if you can get the other thing up for Bill, because I have the nominations for that. And just some information about that. It was included in the email blast. I apologize it was not included in the report that you received. And the reason for that is we were still working on nominees for that. Some people wanted more time to think and pray about it, which I understand. It's a big decision and a big commitment. But those going off council are John Roche. He finished his second term. Sue Peck, she finished her second term. And Jim Teague, he finished his first term and elected not to run for a second term. The other person that needs to be elected, so in a way is going off council until she is reelected, is Sharon Knadler. Sharon Knadler is also currently serving as our preschool liaison. Sharon, you want to raise your hand? Maybe you can come up here and stand so someone can, people on Zoom can see you. So she is another, she's going to stand right by the pulpit, Jen, so you don't have to run. It's okay. Right in front here, I think. Yeah, I think
Yeah, that'd be good.
All right, so move in the front, right in the front. Stand right in the front here. There's Sharon. There she is. All right. So those were the ones going off council. Now the nominees for council, we have 4 openings and 4 nominees, but there may also be nominees from the floor if you so desire. But the nominees for church council are Sharon Knadler, Dave Offit, Bill Rohr. Bill Rohr is a relatively new member. He worships frequently, was here this morning. He may be online. Is he online? Jen's not back there, so we can't see.
Yeah, I'm
But
here.
if you look for Bill, there
Hey,
he
Bill.
is.
I'm here.
Yay.
You can hear his voice at least. Can we see your picture, Bill?
Sure.
There he
Hey,
is.
Bill.
Hey, how are you?
And Bill works for a television news service and is a reporter and I guess videographer too. So it's great to have that talent at Advent. And then we have one additional council nominee, and that's Jen Doherty. Jen Doherty is also an 8 a.m. worshiper. She worships with her daughter, Heather. Her grandfather, more of you may know, is Paul Griglione. He is the person that took over the Appalachia Service Project. So we have 4 nominees: Sharon Knadler, Dave Offit, Bill Rohr, and Jen Doherty. Are there any other nominations from the floor? Any other nominations online?
Or you can self-nominate too, is fine.
Yes, you can nominate yourself or ask someone to nominate you. All right, I would like, if there are no nominations, I would like a motion from the floor to direct the secretary to cast a unanimous ballot for the 4 people nominated. Could I have a motion for that? Trent Seaman, so moved. A second. Judy Reif, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? The motion so carries.
Hey, Pastor.
Yeah.
Do you want to hand out the gift cards now or?
Yes, and I'm going to ask Jen to do that.
For those that are there,
She's been
this has
running
been a
back and forth between her. We really wanted to thank some people that have served, not only on council, but just served in general. And those are the people that are going off council, and one additional person that also went off council. But the first is John Roche. John Roche served on council for 6 years. And he also served faithfully on Mutual Ministry Committee. And I had the pleasure of confirming both of his sons and some stepdaughters, and especially watching his oldest son decorate our whole Christmas tree 2 years ago. He did the most awesome job. What I didn't know is he was in trouble, and that's why I had to do it. But it was really cool. The other person we want to recognize is Jim Teague for his many years of faithful service, both as a council member, as a property committee chair, and really the person that was always first on my list when someone told me about a problem or I noticed a problem at Advent. I also personally want to thank Jim Teague for always being a voice of wisdom. Jim and I don't always agree, but we always can have a very good discussion and always find a way to agree to disagree, or one of us moves each other in a different direction. So I want to thank Jim for that. Let's give a round of applause for Jim Teague and John Roche. Then the other person we want to thank is Sue Peck. Sue Peck has served for 6 years as council secretary. She also is a quilter. She serves in the choir. I'm still working on her about the praise team. So you can join me in doing that because she has a great voice. And so we want to say thank you to Sue Peck. And the last person we want to say thank you to, last but not least, is Ian James, who served faithfully as treasurer for, I guess, I don't know, 5-6 years, but also continues to serve as a bell choir member and worship and music committee member. And as was mentioned earlier, before Kathy and Laura Williams took over PowerPoint, he served in that capacity for many years. He really brought that to Advent. You know, We take it for granted now, but there was a lot of work and a lot of commotion getting us PowerPoint too. So thank you, Ian, for your role in that. How about a round of applause for Ian as well?
Okay, and just to that end, what we developed is, and this will take us into our capital campaign, but I'm going to stop for our motion first. But we created this card, a note card that we wrote in, and included a gift card for them. But it's representative of our church and our vision, and I've got some extras, so maybe we can use those for some other purposes. So if you're there in church, maybe Jen can share them with you. All right, Bill, I guess I'll move to your motion next. Is that our next step?
Okay.
Thank you.
So we have a motion concerning the endowments. We have $7,951 that is still in the 50th anniversary fund. And a commitment had been made to a number of members that once that was the 50th anniversary was over, that we would put the money into the endowment. That was planned for last March, but because of COVID, didn't get done. So it's kind of an item, a cleanup item at this point to make that deposit. And the way in which we're going to do that is to put it into the existing mission and ministry fund endowment that we have with the ELCA. And then we're going to prorate according to the amount of money that we're putting in versus the original to each of the youth ministry fund and the outreach evangelism ministry fund. So I'll read the motion at this point and then answer any questions anyone has. The motion is to deposit 50th anniversary funds residual balance of $7,951 into the Advent Lutheran Church Ministry and Mission Fund, an account with ELCA Endowment Fund pooled trust, and to credit future ministry and mission fund distributions on a prorated basis according to the value of the existing ministry and mission at the time of this deposit, and 50% of the prorated distributions for the $791 to each of the youth ministry fund and the outreach evangelism ministry fund. Are there any questions? Do we want to move to a second at this point?
Is there a second?
Second, Sam Young.
Sam Young. Is there any further discussion? Okay, so I'll call the vote. For all those in favor, say yes or say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, so moved. Thank you, Bill. All right, so we're going to move on to the capital campaign. And so how we're going to handle this, is Jill there?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Jill.
So I'm going to introduce it for just a moment. I'm going to take off my council chair hat, put my capital campaign hat on. So I've got that on now, right? So I'll introduce it. We'll call for a motion and a second, and then we're going to open it to discussion. And Jill will be there in person to handle any questions. We thought, seeing a person up live and personal is more impactful. As you know, last week we had a frequently asked question meeting with many of the members, about the campaign. But I want to start out with a little bit just of a story. When I started this process, I was kind of, well, why do we need to hire someone? We can do this ourselves. Till I started to do the job. It's a lot of work. And then my daughter, who does fundraising, asked me, well, Mom, what's it hurt to ask somebody, And so I said, okay, what if? And we did interview people. We went through a whole process, and I moved from no to yes. So our council members are pretty creative, so I'm going to share something. So what if we lived in this ideal world and angels would emerge from the congregation and fund this? Well, What about that? Well, what if in the next level of this ideal world, members would have time, talent, and inclination to volunteer to do the work necessary for the campaign? Well, you know what? We're not in that ideal world now. So council has prayerfully considered this and brings forward, a recommendation that the motion would be that we hire Kirby Smith Associates to first conduct a feasibility study to determine a fundraising amount, and based upon that amount and those results, to move forward and conduct a capital campaign to raise money to replace the roofs and whatever else we can accomplish. The cost of that would be $14,000. So that's the motion, and I'd like a second on that motion.
Second, Bill.
Okay, thank you. And so I'm going to move it to discussion, and Jill, maybe you could go to the podium and answer any questions.
Hello.
Does anyone have any
And
questions?
Jill is the
for Kristen?
co-chair. Oh, just so you know, we have 4 people. Maureen Moosom, Jill Dow, she's my co-chair, and Nancy Jameson, who wears a lot of different hats, who have been helping out on this committee. So thank you, Jill.
You're welcome. There doesn't seem to be anything from the floor. Is there anything on Zoom? Not yet. Okay. Yes, Judy.
How did you pick the management team that you are going to use?
The question is, how did we choose the consultant that we'd like to use? Kirby Smith and Associates. We did a interviewing process. Charlene personally interviewed several vendors, and we liked Kirby Smith's personal approach. They'll meet, oh, go ahead.
And you have reviewed some of his marketing.
Oh, yes.
Stores and whatnot.
Yes, and we've checked their references, had in-depth conversations with some churches and pastors who have used them. And yeah, we were very satisfied that they're a good fit for us.
And also because they do a lot of the administrative work, they handle the mailings, they handle the production of the brochures. So it's not just we're paying for their consulting, we're also paying for their paper, their copying, their postage. That's an all-inclusive amount.
Do we get to oversee?
Yes, we are working with Kirby Smith, and the task force will see everything. And Judy, you don't do Google Docs, so I might have to come personally to get your input on.
Yes, you will.
Okay.
The question, just so everyone knows, was will we be involved in the process of all the production of the materials? And the answer is yes. Anything online? Sue?
So I think you mentioned last week that the company will survey people.
Mhm.
It's a certain percentage of the number of something.
Sue wants to know about the survey that we plan to do. Everyone will get the survey, and I would really encourage you to fill it out and send it back to us. And then some people will have to work on how to choose who gets personal interviews. If you would like one, certainly volunteer. But everyone will get the survey, and we're on a tight timeline, so you'll probably get that soon if the motion goes. Anything online, Jen? Okay.
Are you looking for commitment right away in this feasibility study?
Are we looking for commitment right away in the feasibility study? Yes, they'll have a gift discussion with you, and
Like how much are you giving?
yes. Mhm.
All right.
Over 3 years.
Over 3 years, yeah. Yeah.
And it's strictly confidential.
That will help us know what's feasible.
Yeah. One of the reasons we chose was because of the confidentiality. Jill, myself, and my other campaign or team members will not comfortable in making those conversations and having those conversations.
Anything else? Anyone else?
Call the question.
Nothing in person, Charlene.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much, Jill. And thank you, members of the congregation. As Pastor mentioned, we're already starting the process with Kirby Smith to start the feasibility study. So again, the motion is to move forward with Kirby Smith to do a feasibility study. Depending on the outcome of that study, and if it's positive, then we're going to move forward with having them help us conduct the capital campaign. And the time window of this is through the period of February through May. So it's compact to fit and align with our funding of the roof. So, and the cost of this will be $14,000. So I will call the question. So all in favor? And we do need your votes in through the chat. Say yes.
Wait, there's a question from the floor.
Okay, yes.
Feasibility study and moving forward with them to do campaign. So the $14,000 is only the feasibility study, or it's the moving forward all inclusive?
The question is, what's the difference between feasibility and moving forward with the campaign, and what does the 14,000 cover? And the answer is it covers everything.
Okay, the whole campaign.
The whole, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thanks, Jill.
And it's 14,000, no matter, they could raise us $1 million and it'll still be 14,000.
Yeah. And the other comment was, if we stop, which we don't intend to stop, but if we stop, then we just pay for the feasibility study. So it's a
Which is
well-written.
about what? How much is that part of it? Like
2,800. 2,800.
Yeah.
And that was their proposal. So they put that in there. So they said, if you don't like us and we don't like them, let's figure it out. Okay, so all in favor, say aye, or send in your vote. And if you want to be private, just send it to Jen and she'll count. Okay, so just send it to Sanctuary if you want a private vote. So send it to Sanctuary and Jen will keep it private.
And then for the in-person vote, all in favor, if you could raise your hands. All right, there are 19 in favor. Any opposed, raise your hand.
And then opposed online?
Any abstentions, raise your hand. One abstention.
Okay.
There's one abstention in person.
Okay. Okay. So moved. Thank you. Hey, and Pastor, I don't know if you want to share what you see the next steps being before we close, or.
Yeah, I can share them real quickly. We were really hopeful that we would get approval, and we wanted to get a head start. So we have. There's been pictures and whatnot circulated. There's been some work by the task force with a lot of help from Dottie Foley with that, of coming up with a vision document that will explain the vision of doing this capital campaign. And so in the not too distant future, you should get a letter explaining the feasibility study. It will include the actual study that we ask you to fill out. That can be done hard copy or online. Either way, there's options to do it either way, and an envelope is provided to mail it back. All that goes to Kirby Smith. And as part of that feasibility study, they ask, are you supportive of this Under the Roof campaign? If so, how much might you be able to give financially over the next 3 years, and when? Because we feel that it's very likely we're going to have to increase our mortgage, at least in the short term, because we really need to have the roof done June-ish of this year. We have to commit by the end of February, because if we don't, with the contractor we're probably going to go with, we would pay $15,000 more. We have a short window for that. The feasibility study is also an opportunity to have a bigger vision than just the roof. And so you have an opportunity to say, what are your hopes and dreams for Advent? And the point is made that if we paid off our existing mortgage, which is about $138,000, we would have $3,000 more every month for mission, ministry, outreach, maybe youth ministry. Who knows? It's what is the vision of the congregation. And there's some places that you can circle ways to get involved and whatnot. So please participate. Even if you want to say, I cannot support this in any way, that is more important to get that response than to get no response. So just know that. And then Kirby Smith will follow up with certain people, asking them to have a conversation. You can always say, hey, I'm not interested in that, but maybe you are. Maybe they'll have you look at things in a different way. And anyone that wants to talk more about giving options, planned giving, charitable, there's many ways to give. You can say, hey, they didn't contact me, I'd like to be contacted. So that's all included in that $14,000. But the wonderful thing is, I'm not going to be spending time on it. Jen's not going to be spending a lot of time on it. We have some work to do with them, but we can focus on ministry and worship, and I feel much more comfortable with that. So I really thank you for your support of that campaign.
Okay, thank you.
Any
Pastor?
questions that you might have?
Okay, is there any further business?
There is not. And
Okay.
I'm starting to see a couple of snowflakes once in a while. So
All right, so Pastor, can you close with the Lord's Prayer, please? Come back up.
let us pray together the words that Jesus taught us to boldly pray. Let us lift our hands in prayer. Good and gracious God, thank you for this meeting. Thank you for all who served, who continue to serve. And we just ask for your amazing grace to continue to bless us as a congregation. Bless this Under This Roof campaign, that we might be amazed by the response of your people. And lead us always to pray the words that Jesus taught us to pray, praying together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Go in peace, drive safely, and serve the Lord.
All right, meeting's adjourned. Thank you so much.